A very important thing to understand in the cloud is the concept of shared responsibility. What is shared responsibility? This is like a model that defines a concept that defines the division of responsibilities between cloud providers and cloud customers. So who are the cloud providers? These are the Amazons and the Google Cloud and the Microsoft Azure, all the big cloud providers who rent or sell their cloud products. And who are the cloud customers? Individuals or organizations who use the cloud services to perform their operations. So both parties play important roles in ensuring the security and compliance within the cloud. It's not because you put all your data in the cloud that it's secure. You have to make sure that you do your due diligence and due care. So the cloud provider is responsible for the security of the cloud, but you as a customer, you're responsible for securing your data. If you store your data in the cloud, but that you don't implement strong password policies for your users, or that you set firewall rules such that everyone can access the data, that is your fault and not the cloud provider's fault. So the shared responsibility model is important to make sure that both the cloud provider and the cloud customer take their responsibility in securing the cloud platform. Many organizations like to go hybrid, so they use some on-prem infrastructure and some cloud platform as well. They don't do everything on the cloud and they don't do everything on-prem. So that's called a hybrid model. It offers flexibility and also maintains control over local data. So the sensitive data, their local sensitive data, they store it within their premises, and then the other data can be stored on the cloud. So that's like a kind of hybrid private and public model that customers use, one way in which they use the cloud services. One of the concepts in the cloud is called infrastructure as a code. What is infrastructure as a code? Everything is in the name. This is a way to manage the cloud through code instead of manually. So just like you see on the right of the screen there, rather than manually managing the cloud customers can write code to automate processes, to reduce human error, and to ensure consistency, such that everything that's done following will be will follow the same model, will follow the same approach, because everything is written in the cloud and everything will follow the same approach. An important model within the cloud is the concept of serverless. So this is a model where the cloud provider manages the allocation of resources. And during that time, the cloud customer focuses on the code. So developers focus on code while the provider handles server management. And this is used to reduce operational overhead. How could that work? Let's take an example of how this can work. So imagine that you're the developer of Instagram. You're the one who created Instagram. Now you have a customer, for example, Andrea, she takes her selfie and she uploads her picture to Instagram. Now the application is hosted on the cloud. Everything happens on the cloud. Amazon, for example, they have a concept called Lambda. It's a serverless concept. So when it's triggered, what happens? Your picture will automatically be resized and compressed depending on the device where it's uploaded. So on the watch, it's smaller, on the computer, it's larger and proportional to the number of pixels. This is the concept. This is an example of how serverless could work. So the cloud provider takes care of server management and allocation of resources and a few other configurations. Meanwhile, the customer takes care of the code. To understand the concept of microservices, it's important to talk about monolithic applications first. So monolithic applications were applications built in the 80s, early 90s, and these were applications built as one large piece of code. So everything is within one piece of code. Imagine that Facebook, for example, was written within one large piece of code of 50,000 lines, for example. Now, if there is a problem on one line, let's say line 3,000, the whole application will crash. Everything will go down until that problem is fixed. That was monolithic applications back in the days. Like imagine Amazon written with one piece of code, then that will be unusable today because there are so many units. So that's how came about microservices. Microservices is style that structures an application as a collection of loosely coupled services. So individual services loosely coupled, but they're still related. Each service is responsible for a specific function, and they communicate with each other through APIs, application programming interface. APIs permit those microservices to communicate. So each service is independent and manageable, and this is also used to enhance flexibility. If one part of the application crashes, or if it's down, or if it's updating, this will not affect other parts. So for example, on a very high level, you can have for Amazon, for example, instead of one large application, you can have different microservices, one for the home, one for the history, one for customer service, one for Prime Video. Obviously, it's more detailed than that, but on a very high level to show you how it can be broken down, this is an example. If you think about Facebook, you can have one for the user profile, for marketplace, for all the different Facebook components. And it's obviously more detailed and individual than that. But this is what a microservice is. So it's instead of having one large piece of code with 100,000 lines, you have smaller individual and independent code that each perform their function, such that if you work on one part, you will not affect the others, but they're related and communicate through APIs. That's microservice.
All right, guys, that concludes our course for today. Let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed it. And make sure to follow us on all our social media platforms, which includes YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Of course, do not forget to order our awesome Amazon flashcards that you can get for just $15. And they're awesome because they help you study.